right now. This is my first time using this platform, and I'm looking to see if there was a record button so that I can make this available for people after this training today, but I'm not quite sure. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get an opportunity to share this with those who are not able to make it, because that is going to be my gift to those of you in our community so that you can get the training recorded. We don't typically do that, but I thought we'd do this one just because everyone was so excited about knowing and understanding what is needed to fund a transitional housing facility. So fingers crossed, we're getting a recording, and or you'll get a link that you can then share. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that this is going to work out right and we'll be able to get this to share with our community. So a couple things I want to go over first. And I will say it's probably a delay, so I'm going to be patient as I sort of speak, just to make sure that I'm getting the content in and any questions that you might have. So first and foremost, let's get through some logistics. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat. Once you type it in the chat, I will be able to read it as well as anybody else. If you want to send a private message to me, you can click on the button that says to everybody and just change it to come directly to an admin only. When you do that, it will just come to me. So your choice, you can either send it out so everybody sees it, or you can send it privately to me. I'm open either way because I'm seeing people coming in. My goal is to get this training started and to give everyone an opportunity to chime in. And it also gives you an opportunity to give some anonymity. Some people have questions that they really don't want to ask publicly, and that's okay too. You're in a new space that I want you to feel comfortable to be able to ask questions and get what you need. So I want to welcome you to our Transitional Housing Maximized Spotlight Live, where today we're going to be talking about funding in transitional housing, because that is a topic, as I said, everyone wants to know about. And I want to be able to provide you with some key training that's going to help you. So a couple of things before we jump into that. I want to get a feel, before we jump into that, I forgot to say, if you have not subscribed to me on Instagram, go to Instagram and find me. You can find me at toni.t.wade. That's toni.t.wade. Please do that, because my goal is to be able to give stuff to you as it comes, and the best way to get it is through my social media and on here. So go ahead and subscribe to my Instagram and go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube. On my YouTube, we're going to do the @ sign and then Toni T. Wade, just simply with no dots. So at Toni T. Wade, you can find me on YouTube. And please be sure to subscribe, because there's information I share that's exclusively just for this community, but then there are other things that everyone gets, but you don't want to miss that either. So be sure to do those pieces and we'll get started. Now, before we do anything, feel free to share in the chat to everybody where you're located. If you're located in St. Louis, Missouri, if you're located in Albuquerque, but go ahead and let me know where you're from. Let everybody know where you're from, because my goal is we're sort of going to target particular areas potentially in this training. And also, if you have identified your niche yet, say that too. So if you are in St. Louis, Missouri, catering to people coming out of incarceration, state that. And then we will move forward, because that'll help me frame this discussion around funding so that I'm meeting the needs. So let's go ahead and get started now. The first thing I want to do is give you the opportunity to answer a few questions for me. On the screen, you should see a poll that shows, and I'm hoping it shows up with the first question I want to ask the group. Where are you in your transitional housing journey? I need to know that. That helps me understand whether or not you are just exploring the idea, if you have a vision but you need help getting started, or you already have a property or a program and you're wanting to expand, or you already are running a facility but you need funding. So one of those three things I need you to select in our poll. Okay, I see some people responding. Hopefully the poll, let me see if I don't know if it popped up. Hold on, let me publish it first. I guess we should do that first. So go ahead and respond. Which one are you? Once you vote, then it'll allow me to see, okay, now I'm seeing some percentages popping up. Once you've responded, it lets me see where you are in your transitional housing journey. So wow, it looks like in our room now, we have individuals who are just exploring the idea, or you have a vision, but you need to get started. So the next question I've got then is, thought I had one more poll, maybe two. The next one is, how confident do you feel about securing funding for your facility? So if you are brand new and you don't know exactly where you are, I need to know if you still feel confident, since most of the people in the room, yep, that's sort of where I thought it was going to be. Most people really don't know where to start. That's what I'm seeing as the response, is that most people do not know where to start, which that's why this is a perfect opportunity for you to be on this call. So then the next one, and I appreciate you guys doing this. This helps me frame our discussion of what we're going to talk about today. Which of these feels like your biggest roadblock right now? Do you know where to find funding? Which, based off the last response, I think I already know the answer. Communicating my vision effectively. Like, which is your biggest roadblock? Because there's a lot. There's 5 different roadblocks that you face when it comes to funding. So is it knowing where to find the funding? Is it communicating your vision effectively? Is it reaching the right people? Is it following up and staying consistent? Or is it something else? So if you, out of those 5, which would be your biggest roadblock? Okay, looks like we got some mixed responses here, which is great, because I'm seeing that people are wanting to talk about how you communicate your vision effectively, as well as how you follow up and stay consistent with what it is that you're promoting. Perfect. I think I just have one more poll, and the reason why these are so important, it allows me to understand where you are in this process. I think I have 2 more. This one here, nope, I have 1 more. This is the last one. So, and if you have, wonderful. If you've not, that's okay too. Have you ever reached out to an organization or agency about funding before? Ever, even if it's outside of this space, maybe your current job, that is what I need to know, if you've ever done that before. Yep. So it looks like 100% of this room said that they are nervous or unsure about how to reach out to agencies about funding. So this is perfect. I feel like what I've prepared for today will really help position us with what needs to be done. So hopefully you should see my slides, fingers crossed, because if you can't, we're going to have a problem. Because, yeah, you need to be able to see this. So let me know up. I think everyone, if you can see my slides, hopefully. I've got a slide that just talks first about training, what we're covering first. So it does say I'm showing it. So bear with me. There we go. All right. So as you know, we're talking about funding, and specifically showing you how to start following where the funding is at, and then get into a position where you are building the partnerships that you need to build. Because that, at the end of the day, is how you get paid. You don't get paid any way else. I mean, you can get funding through several different ways, but when you can partner or find the funding through the resources that are already out there, why would you not look that up? So I need you to know that there are several different ways to find funding, but there is no magic grant out there that exists. So it's not like you can say, oh, well, I'm going to cater to people coming out of incarceration and immediately you can apply for 10, 15, 20 different grants. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to do the work to get to that funding. And it's all about relationships. If you do not have the right relationships, then it's going to be very difficult for you to master that. So I want to strongly encourage you, if this is the area that you said that makes you a little nervous, we're going to help you get comfortable in this space, help you get into a position where you truly can get to the funding. And it starts with the relationships. Now, as you work in that relationship, and we're going to go in detail with some of this later, but I just want you to understand it is based off of the relationships, and you're not going to just simply go out there and find it, sitting alongside you. You got to go lift up some rocks and do a little digging to get to some funding, but it's there. And I want you to know there is billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars out there that is available through the government and through nonprofits toward this funding. So once you know that you have a solution, you are in the best position ever to give them what they need. Because what they need at the end of the day is individuals who are catering to what they need, which is housing for their clients. So once you know you have what it takes, you're not here asking them for a favor. You're not out here asking for them to, hey, please. No, you got something they want. And because you have something they want, you need to now position yourself where you can give them what they need. You are their solution. So once you know that going into this, then that's half the battle. But you have to start in your mind understanding what you offer and what you bring. Now, you will have to do the research that needs to be done to get there. Okay. You will have to, and I encourage you, wherever your area is, if you're in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, then you're going to go out into Google and you're going to start your search for the funding that's there in Louisville. Now, I can tell you too, when you're looking, you can go even deeper than a city. You can go deeper into a county, because understand, funding is given by not just to the states or the cities, but to the counties. So once you understand how your particular area is structured, this is where you can do your deep digging. But in general, if you just simply go to Google and type out rapid rehousing St. Louis, rapid rehousing Seattle, or you call out the specific county, you can say rapid rehousing or Lincoln County. Like, you can just be specific like that, but your job is to get that work in and identify where there is funding. So once you find where the funding is at, your job then is to find where that money is at. Find it and then find those organizations who have it. So you also can go to sites like usaspending.gov to be able to look at their resources. You can also go to HUD and their website to see where they are giving the dollars in their COC. And many of you hear me talk about the COC all the time. The COC is the Continuum of Care, and they're given awards from HUD, the Housing Department of Urban Development. They are responsible for giving those funds to the COC. So as long as you see who's getting those awards for what, now you control some of that narrative and you want to follow where the money is going. So once you get there to where you start identifying specific things that is available, you then can create a list. And I encourage you, if you're not driving by any type of CRM or a system, you can go as simple as creating a spreadsheet. And in a spreadsheet, you create whatever it is that you need to collect that information for those organizations who are your key organizations that serve your population. But let me say this too, because you've heard me talk about before, you have to know your niche. If you don't know what niche, you don't know what to look for. Or use the funding, like when you follow the money, you might find out, dang, my niche was working with people come out of incarceration, but look at all this money that's out here for aging out youth. people, kids who are aging out of foster care. Wow, that's a great opportunity. I might want to switch my niche and go over there instead, because what? That's where the money's at. So your job is to determine what your niche is and what it is that you need to do to get that funding. And this research is critical to finding where that money is at. And once you find that, you are going to create a spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet is going to go in detail with what it is that you are. So you'll have the organization's name, you will have how much money, what type of funding did they get, how much did they get. I would then start going and doing a deep dive into that organization. Like, there's so much that you could be doing there to finding out where the money's at and who has the money. Okay. So once you got to the point where you've done all your digging and you went out there and looked at those organizations and you start finding some people, that's when you're like, okay, let me get out here and get ready to talk to these people. Okay. Because now that you know where the money's at and you know who has the money and you've identified some people in the organization, now I'm going to tell you, I don't care which way you go, just touch somebody. You might be comfortable to go to the executive director of an organization or the person who heads up. And I would tell you, going into and when you look at the website, it's going to tell you more about the organization. You might find out they've got a landlord engagement manager who's managing all the landlords in their area. You might find out they've got a housing coordinator that heads it up for like, you need to find out as much as you can find out about that organization and who those people are, because you can go as high as going to the top person, which, I want to help you build up your confidence in this area, because I'm going to tell you, I would go there. Now, I wouldn't go to the CEO. I wouldn't go to the executive director. He's got leaders. If it's a large enough organization, they have leaders in place, management that is going to report up to them, that has a whole crew. You really want to get to the person that has that long list of people, like maybe 20, 30, 100 people that can they can funnel that information to. That's what you want. So once you get there and you've got that information, that's when you then will go and start sending. You're going to actually send the perfect introductory email. Now, as you've heard me say, I've done both. I've done emails, I've done phone calls, and I do them both. I don't care. I'm going to do one or the other, but your email, your introduction of you, has to be professional. So what you give out there needs to be a very professional email that basically lets them know who you are. It's going to introduce your mission, your vision, everything that you have. And I've got templates that I offer in our VIP and elite program that you can use to create and customize that meets your needs. But you clearly want to have an objective in that email that really puts it out there that you want to be able to first set a meeting with them. Now, I've done it where I haven't set a meeting. I actually would have the meeting and then I have a follow-up email. However you want to do it, you need to be comfortable with whatever you do, but having a perfect email that you use, whether to introduce yourself or after you've gotten in the door or had a phone call, because I talk to people. I love talking with people, and I sell them on me over the phone. And then I'm usually sending a follow-up email that's saying, it was great talking with you today. Once again, here I am. Here's our bio. These are the things we're doing. And here's what we're offering. And I always show them how we bring value to them. So once you show how you bring value to them, how you align with their goals, hands down, this is the type of stuff that they want to see. They want to see an alignment with what they offer and what you offer so that you can start that conversation. And connecting to the right person is critical. And as I said, you could go to Zoom and set that up, or you can do a phone call. Like, you just need to get to where you are getting in front of them and you're touching on them as much as you can, because it's all in the follow-up. Everything is about the follow-up. Because once you have started this process and you send out that email to them, that perfect email, you might have even had a phone call, that's when you want to make sure you're following up with them. Now, I typically say within 2 days, especially if you just got off the phone with them, and let's say there was an action or something you said you were going to do and you sent it out and you didn't hear from them. So I would follow up. and say, hey, you said that, I was just reaching out to make sure did you get my email? It might have gone to your spam. Like, I'm always bringing back the conversation, but you always want to follow up, and you want to keep record of how you're following up, because you're going to find in this space, you're going to touch people quite often. They say anywhere from 7 touches you're going to have, or 8 touches you can have with a person to get them to where they feel comfortable with you. Because at the end of the day, they have to trust you, and you're building relationships, right? So you want to make sure that you're building relationships with these individuals that you're working with. And you usually have to do that within, you're going to send about 3 to 4 emails out to them. Most likely you're going to have phone calls with them. These are the things that help you grow with them and build relationships with them. Because as you do this is the stuff that's going to take you to the next level. Now, as you're doing this, let me just say that everything that you want to build, it's in the follow-up. And if you do not follow up well, that's where you're going to lose people. You're going to want to create a referral network that can feed. Your referral network is something that grows, right? And if you're not creating the right referral network to where you are flowing like you need to flow, then it's going to fall off. You're going to find where, and remember, you're in a space to find the money and find relationships and get referrals, because that's how this starts. But you got to get in a position where you have that. But if you do not keep that thing growing and building, it's just not going to get there. And I can speak from example. I can speak from experience of how that works. Like I said, I've been doing this for 14 years, and it's all in the follow-up. Because as we've identified, we've partnered with so many different agencies here in St. Louis, and I've had multiple people who've been on my team. We've got our systems in place that make this thing churn like clockwork. But sometimes, like, let's say we have change in, we have a person who changed in position and they're not doing what's expected to be done anymore. Next thing you know, where you thought you were getting referrals, the phone's not ringing anymore. Why? Because you didn't do your follow-up. You did not do what was necessary to nurture a relationship. So you're going to have to actively nurture a relationship to be able to get it to where it needs to be. And that's what I strongly encourage, because that's where you're going to find your fortune. That's where you're going to find everything you need. Now, you hear me talk all the time about we're in this as a mission, but it's more than money. But fortune, when I say fortune, is just being able to, fortune is how you define it, right? If we're trying to meet your mission goals, that's going to be your gold nugget in building out your mission that then creates the revenue you want to generate. And it's all in the follow-up. So I want to encourage you to just stay focused and focus on getting your emails out and getting the deal closed with the individuals that you're working with, because that is where you can move forward. Now, I want to say, once you get to a position where you can have a meeting, these meetings are powerful, by the way. We've done so many different, I've done meetings where I would go and meet with them at their office with their staff, and we talk about all the great things that we're doing. And that's I actually say that is the fun stuff. Once you've got someone who's interested in working with you to the point where they're like, gosh, come speak to my staff. Sometimes you'll have 20, 30 people in the room, all dedicated to hearing what it is that you're doing. They want to hear what you're doing. They're going to want to hear, how are you building relationships? So when you do that, you really want to make sure that whether you're doing a phone call or you're doing it in person, that you are authentic and that you are curious about what they do. Because if you're not curious and it's all about you, then you're not creating a win-win. You're creating a situation where it's all about you and meeting your needs. And even though you're meeting theirs, you don't make them feel valued. And you show people how valued they are to you by asking the right questions and making sure you understand what it is that they want to accomplish. So being clear in that discussion is critical. So as you think about structuring that phone call or structuring that meeting, you want to make sure that you got a killer intro. So they know who you are, like how long you've been around, all the things they're going to want to know about you. What is it that you stand for? Who's on your team? How long have you been doing this? Now, if you're brand new into this, don't let that scare you. You don't have to be a seasoned expert. That's where, if you were in our elite program or in our consulting meetings, I would be working with you one-on-one to make sure that those relationships are built up properly. And it's all about just how you posture. You can posture before you even have stuff. And I always say too, it's better to have this than to have the property. Why? Because now you have a demand for what you offer. So being able to create that demand, like, dang, I need to go get a property now. I got all these people ready to move in. Let me hurry up and get a property. Some people do it in reverse order. So making sure you sell yourself well when you're having this meeting is critical. And the reason why you are there is to learn about what they need and find out what it is that they are looking for. And you must be flexible. You cannot sit and say, well, I've created this amazing program that caters to people who I want to create a program that makes them do X, Y, and Z. Let's just say that you have something that requires them to, to have a ministry or to get their spirit in a space where they have to edify God, like all those wonderful things. You can do that, but let's say that you might offend somebody and they're like, oh, well, we don't really care about that. You have to be flexible in what it is that you're offering, because at the end of the day, yes, you want to be able to meet the core of who it is and what it is that you're creating, but you also cannot, you have to understand what comes with that. You could, ultimately offend someone that might not want to use your program to edify their client. So it's a balance. So I just want to say, as you're creating your program and what it is that you offer people, still be all inclusive, but allow people to become what you need them to become, whatever your beliefs are. Because I believe there's some ability for you to be able to move in that space. And I'll just say, just make sure you're asking the right questions, because you need to know what their needs are. You need to know where is their gaps, like what is currently going on with their situation now in housing their clients. So you have a better position of how you can move that forward. So I always tell people to really make sure you understand what they need and you ask the right questions, because in that space, it allows for you to then set up what your first goal is. And I want to encourage you to make sure that as you get into this space, that you give yourself a goal, so that as you are identifying the key players that you're going to be working with, the key organizations that you're going to be working with, make sure that like if you say you're going to do 3 Zoom meetings this week, then you do 3. If it's just 1, or if you're wanting to, actually drop some things off, because we've done that. We actually used to bring baskets. This is more around cultivating the relationship after we've had it, but we would bring baskets of donuts and coffee to some of our partners, just to let them know how much we appreciate the partnership, how we really want to grow with them. But you want to be intentional around what you say you're going to do, especially if you are building relationships. So if you want to do 3 Zoom meetings, then you need to stick with just that. Or if you're going to do 3 drive-bys and drive by your agencies 3 times a month, do that. But your goal is to get confident in this space, being able to speak to people about what it is that you're offering, what it is that you're doing, and then be able to move into a space where they want to do an MOU with you. They want to have a relationship with you. So as you move down that path, set some realistic goals for yourself so that you can continue to grow in the space that you're wanting to. Because, it's great having meetings and it's great building relationships, but you have to get to a point where you are focusing on building that relationship, building your referrals that ultimately build your revenue, because you need the revenue in order to run these. I do know for a fact that many people have facilities that are strictly self-pay, and that's okay too. And it can work just as well. Think about it. SSI and SSDI, most people bring in $900 a month just from that. So, and they've got food stamps. So if, depending on how your home is structured, you can do pretty well just self-pay by yourself. That's how we started off at the beginning. We didn't have funding originally. We had people coming in, paying for themselves. But there is funding out there that you can build and grow on. My goal is that as you start doing this, that one, because I think people were asking on our last call whether I can be a nonprofit or for profit. For profit is a great place to be. Just get those relationships so you can get funding that comes in to help assist as you are putting programs together. Because agencies who have money, and we're not talking about little money neither. We're talking about trillions, billions of dollars out there that is going into this space. And over the years, it's going to grow. In the next 5 years, they have to do something because clearly our homeless population is growing significantly. So we've got to do what's necessary to get us to that point where we are moving forward. Now, you basically, in what I just shared with you in those few moments, you have exactly what you need. Especially if you go down the path looking for the organizations that are local to you, that serve your specific niche or help you identify your niche, because your goal is to follow the money. Once you've done that and you've identified those organizations, and I do about 10, because if you had 10 and you only had 2, now mind you, let me just run this number down just so you understand. If you have 10 organizations that you can be a part of, right? And out of those 10, only 2, just 2, bring you resources. But all of, let's say that those 2 each have a list, let's just say 100 people. They have 100 people working with them, 100 people, 100 case managers that have, at least every case manager has anywhere from 10 to 20 clients. So now you're looking at 100 people with, let's say, just 10 clients. That's 1,000 clients. Do you have enough housing for 1,000 clients? No, you don't. You might just need a dozen or less. So my point that I'm making, even if you just get one solid relationship that you build on, get that one and build on it strong. Once you've built on it strong, then you can start preparing and growing on top of that. But that's all I ask you to do, is do your research, find the money, and then build relationships through follow-up and sending these emails and then booking that time to spend with them. I promise you, it's not going to take a lot. You dedicate 3 months to building out this piece, you will never, and then continue to drop on it, continue to drip on your tribe. Because if you get to the point where you don't do that, you're going to be back to the drawing board. All right. So I know I said a lot in a mouthful. I'm going to go ahead and I've just got 2 more slides I think I want to talk through. And then I'm going to see if there's any questions in our group. So bear with me for just a minute, because I do want to save those last 2. We're going to talk about this without being on slide, I think, which is the 2 funding sources that we've got right now, and then the VIP. So before we get into that, are there any questions about what we went over? Any questions? I'm going to go ahead and just stop this slide for a minute, and I could come back to it. I don't know yet. Just want to see if I had any questions. Okay. All right, great. So with that being said, I did a good job of going over that. I want to go over a couple of more points around funding, and then we'll open up to more Q&A on these last 2, and then we will go over VIP and Elite briefly, so you'll have it. So as I mentioned, I've got 2 funding sources I am vetting right now, and I'm excited about being able to give you an opportunity to see what is available for funding, because many of you in this space who's brand new, you want to know how you're going to clearly fund the house, right? Once you get it. But how about getting the house? You want to be able to get it, right? Now, there's several methods we've talked about before that require you to be creative, especially if you don't have any money. You can still get in this, just making a commitment to a landlord and paying the rents, which I mean, that's a whole nother training piece within itself. I'll go over it briefly, but you can identify someone who has a property for rent that you can rent out to make sure that you can have a property that you can do a program in. Clearly, there are some legal things that you'll need to make sure you're protecting yourself from, making sure you do not stretch yourself out too far. As I have said before on many of my YouTubes, I'm not a fan of renting, but if that's all you got, do what you got. Do what you can do. But I prefer owning something, getting something that we can creatively take over than to rent. But if you have to rent and do a contract where you have a master lease, you can do that. You just want to make sure you're not putting yourself into a pickle that you're not going to be able to get out of. And you will have to make those payments because you now are obligated as the company that is representing and going to take care of that house with the master lease, and making sure that they understand, because you have to disclose how the property is going to be used. But if you tug on them the right way, they're not going to mind, especially if their pain point is they just really don't want the stress of a house. And there's so much stressed property out there, distressed property. You should be able to get that. You just have to find it. But if you have to rent, just make sure that you are doing it the right way. So if you're looking for funding for the purchase, depending on how long you've had your EIN in place and how your business is structured, there are ways that we can do that. And that's working directly with we have so many resources. I think it was like 400 banks right now. I'm trying to see if I've got that documentation in front of me. 400 banks that this particular company I'm working with has access to, which is tremendous to be able to have access to that many banks and lenders. We're not talking about hard money. We're talking about really working with banks to be able to give you funding based on how you are structured. So definitely, I love that option with this particular company, as well as that not requiring any personal guarantees. It's rare that you find a source like this that does not require you to personally guarantee everything that you're doing. That is a very, very wonderful feature I like, because there's no risk for your personal assets. Because stuff does happen. At the end of the day, stuff does happen. And we're not saying that we're getting into a situation so that we can default. We would never do that. We're just making, to be able to not have to put a personal guarantee down, and it's with your company. That's going to help you build your company and build what you need to do. It also has a dedicated concierge team that will work with you to give you the guidance that's needed to build the structure that making sure you're structured right, as well as making sure that the terms are in place. And from what I understand, like I said, I'm working the details for you now. I like to vet things first before I bring it to my community, because at the end of the day, it's my reputation. And I want to make sure that people are solid as they are considering us and considering the working with our students. So I'm vetting them very well just to make sure that we flush through everything. And I'm trying them out, like with me. I'm always looking for funding. And from my understanding, this group does a minimum of $50,000. So let's say that you needed to have funding just to put furniture in the property, or having some, capital before the funds start coming in. Having $50,000, it would be great for that. Or you can go as high as, from what I hear, you can go as high as you need to based on your business structure. So even like SBA loans, this actually is better than an SBA loan. So that's why I said I'm flushing through this thoroughly from my standpoint, because we're actively looking for an SBA loan right now to acquire a significant property right now, and we're using it for that. So depending on how this plays out, I definitely will be bringing it to you so that you can take advantage of the same resource. Now, we also have another resource that we are looking at. That one I'm vetting as well. I don't know as many of those details, only because I'm doing this one first, and it's hard to do two at the same time. But my goal is to make sure that I am working on every aspect to bring you funding so that you can do what's necessary to be done, whether it's just funding to furnish the property, or if you need actually something to acquire a property. Now, I do want to say for those of you who are already actively looking for property, please reach out to me. My goal is to make sure that you are getting the right property. And I don't care where you're at across the country, I can assist with that. I work very closely with I identify real estate agents that I think are friendly to this more than anything else. And I've got a nice little crew that I'm building out now across the country. So let me see if I can make sure I can identify someone for you, because I want to make sure you buy right. And to buy right is critical, because if you don't buy right, it can hurt you in the long run. So please make sure that you are doing the right things to move that forward. Okay. So the last thing I will bring up before first, let me make sure there are no questions. No questions. Let me just make sure I have any other things here. Okay. No other questions. So, and I appreciate the feedback that people are giving me so far on what they're hearing. Hopefully this recording goes out well, because this was a really good recording today. I want to go over the offer, because now that we've talked about funding, as many of you know, I am actively working on building out the VIP and the elite. And many of you are like waiting, like with pins and needles, for me to give it out. And I appreciate that. I'm excited to be able to offer that to you. But to be able to offer that to you, I don't want to just like throw something together, like to put the community out like as fast as I did. I did that within just a couple of weeks. I want to make sure that I've thoroughly given you at least 80% of what it is that you need in the VIP and the elite, and then we're going to build from there. So that's where we are. We're literally days away from our VIP launch and our elite launch. When I say days, more like weeks, because I want to make sure it's right. It's coming. So just know it's coming. And I promise you, my goal is to give you something that you can bite your teeth into and like soar. Because right now, a lot of the stuff I'm giving you guys right now is critical information. I want to be able to pour more on you. I can do that truly in the VIP and the elite. And we'll have two different groups for our paid community. But what I decided to do is offer right now 10 students. And you really have until April 15th or the 10th, whichever is first. But I'll be putting this out in the community shortly for anyone who wants to sign up now, because I want to make sure that what we are offering, you can get and get started. I don't want people just sitting and waiting for the VIP or the elite to come, because it will be at a good discount, but just know I'm going to take into account that if you purchase this. I'm looking for 10 students to purchase our 8 steps to setting up a transitional housing facility. I did this training, I want to say about a few years ago, and it's still relevant. And I've not made this available to anyone but a handful of people. And they're like, Tony, that was the best thing ever. And I'm thinking about throwing in another bonus on top of that. Just let me think about it, because I've done the courses and I've done cohorts. And I'm thinking about marrying those two together for this price. But I'm only going to give it to the first 10. I cannot, because this is worth way more than that. I'm just telling you, hands down, you could take this and just run with it. And if you feel pretty good, you do pretty well, but I really want you a part of the VIP and the elite, because then I get to engage with you. I don't know if many of you've heard my vision of what I want. I want to be able to be in 100 cities by the end of 2026. Because clearly we've built this here in St. Louis, and then we are in Troy. That's 2 little cities we've been doing this in. I want 100 cities, and you'll understand why the more you listen to me. So in order for me to get into 100 cities, I know I've got to reach out there and grab some students. That's why I said I want 10 of you right now. Those of you who are going to select this right now, you're going to be like my go-to people starting and building and growing out, especially when we get to VIP and elite. Because I promise you, you're going to want the VIP and the elite, and I'll take into account what you're going to pay for this one to get in. But what you get with this is the 8 steps of me walking through how to do this, as well as a checklist. The checklist literally lets you check everything off to know, yep, I got all my stuff ready. I'm ready to run. It's almost like a blueprint for what it is for you to set your stuff up, because I'm giving this stuff out to you guys piece by piece but I can't even like, I can't even like really give you everything in these 1 week at a time. We'll be here till the next 5 years trying to get you all this information. So that's why you purchasing this course now at a $200 discount for $297, you can get this. And I'm going to tell you, when we first did this, when we first started and launched, I was doing it so cheap. And I had a lot of people who got it then, which I'm glad for those of you who got it then when I was like giving it away. I had to charge something because it's so powerful and it's worth so much. But right now I've discounted it 200 because I'm looking for 10 of you. 10 of you who are going to take this offer and run with it so that we can get this ball rolling now instead of waiting. Because when you start now, you're letting me know, number one, you're serious about moving forward with your transitional housing maximized facility. You're serious about getting it started while you wait for the VIP and the elite. And then once that launches, I'll take that into account that you took this. I might even offer you a discount of that $297 off of what you get for the elite. I will, and I'm going to still make it nice. So at the end of the day, I just want you to get started. And with that, you're going to get, now I'll give you some templates. You're not going to get everything for, because I mean, this is, I think it's originally $497. Oh my goodness. Like the documents alone is worth the $497 when you think about what the attorneys pay. You know, I had to with the attorneys to get the craft. What we created was more than $497. That's why I said you're getting it for a steal, and then you're getting the videos of me talking. So clearly getting this now is the best thing, but I'm not taking everyone. I'm not going to work with 100 people because I know what my goal is. I can work with 10. You get this. You're already letting me know, Tony, I'm going to be one of your VIPs. I'm going to be on your elite. Let me get this first, and then let's come back in a few weeks, and then I'll pick up one of the other programs. Those are the people I'm looking for. So if that's you, you can go ahead and sign up now. You can click the link. I believe when you click the link, it takes you to our school community. Once you go into our school community, you're going to unlock that. Because after I get my 10, that's going to change. It's going to go back to $497, and you know, it may go up higher just because I know what its value is. I have 8 videos of me talking through every step. And you're getting a checklist so that you can create, making sure you got everything done that you need to do. And then you're going to be ready to rock and roll and wait for the VIP. So I am excited that you all have the opportunity to hear today. I'm just going to give a few announcements before we close, because right now we have, this is a new platform. First, let me make sure there are no questions. I'm going to leave the offer on the screen just so that you can get it still. But after that, you're not going to be able to get it. You can get it, but you can still go to the community and get it, by the way. So if you go to the community right now, you'll see this offer until 10 people get it. Once 10 people get it, I'll be taking it down. So with that being said, I want to make sure that no other questions. There are no other questions. So I'm looking for my 10 students by April 15th, which is literally next week, by this class next week. I might say the 14th, I'll give you till the 15th. I might mention it on the call that you have until that midnight that night to get it, because it will be closing that night. But if there are no other questions, I would like to say this one piece, and that is this platform. I don't know if I like either. We've done Zoom, where I had everybody on the screen, and it sort of was a distractor for me. I don't like seeing just the boxes with nobody. But and it was sometimes hard to read all the questions. This seemed to be a easier platform for me, but now I don't see anybody. So I like to see faces too. So we might be testing out a new platform next week. So if you're on, give me some feedback on what you thought about this platform compared to Zoom, and just say which one you liked best. I'm going to continue to test this out until we officially have our VIP and elite launch. So maybe in the next 1 to 2 weeks, like my goal is to have it done by the end of the month. That's what my goal was, so that we can do an amazing event on one of those Saturdays. We're going to do a master class, and you'll get to learn everything that's offered under VIP and our elite. So I want you to stay tuned for that last Saturday of August, which is the 26th. So April. The 26th of April, we're going to do a free webinar, a free masterclass on this stuff. And it will be longer than an hour. Like, that's going to be my commitment, because it's hard to just talk about this, just one thing, and then get to Q&A in an hour. That's hard to do. So I just have to make sure we have the right platform. So mark your calendars for April 26th, number one, and then also give me feedback on this particular platform for our training. I don't know if I like it either, but we did it. And hopefully, if you're watching the recording actually worked. So I look forward to connecting with those 10 of you who are going to be a part of my VIP and elite. You guys are going to be a part of that group, I can tell already. And I'm excited for what we're about to do as we build and grow forward. So let's go ahead and get out here and transform our lives and transform the lives of others, because I promise you, those are the type of things that will help us operate in our passion and our purpose as we build wealth for our future. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thank you.